Capital versus income deduction. ITTOIAS 33, formerly ICTA 1988 S.74, 1, F. In calculating the profits of a trade, no deduction is allowed for items of a capital nature. Tucker v. Granada, per Lord Wilberforce. It is common in cases which raise the question on whether a payment is to be treated as a revenue or as a capital payment for indicia to point different ways. In the end, the courts can do little better than form an opinion which way the balance lies. There are a number of tests which have been stated in reported cases which it is useful to apply, but we have been warned more than once not to seek automatically to apply to one case words or formulae which have been found useful in another. Nevertheless, reported cases are the best tools that we have, even if they may sometimes be blunt instruments. See cases on handout on capital versus income deductions. Now ITTOIAS 34, expenses not wholly and exclusively for trade and unconnected losses. 1. In calculating the profits of a trade, no deduction is allowed for expenses not incurred wholly and exclusively for the purposes of the trade, or b. Losses not connected with or arising out of the trade. 2. If an expense is incurred for more than one purpose, this section does not prohibit a deduction for any identifiable part, or any proportion, of the expense which is incurred wholly and exclusively for the purposes of the trade. Wholly and exclusively. Although no, necessarily, element is for employees, wholly and exclusively, is still a strict test. Leading case is Malaloo v. Drummond, 1983, 2 AC 861, HL. Per Lord Brightman. Single quote opening square bracket. The Special Commissioners were entitled to conclude that, although the taxpayer's conscious object was to serve her professional purposes, another object, albeit an unconscious one, was that of providing herself with the clothing which she needed as a human being, for warmth and decency, and that, accordingly, the expense was not a deductible expense. Wholly and exclusively, Cont. Remember from the employment tax lecture, Sian Williams, BBC breakfast presenter, argued that the studios were warm and she was prepared to present the news without clothes. Unsuccessful. But in G. Daniels v. HMRC, 2018, UK FTT 462, a self-employed exotic dancer was allowed to deduct clothing, etc., the tribunal, neither warm nor decent. Closing parenthesis. Parsons v. Revenue and Customs Commissioners, 2010, UK FTT 110, TC, unusual case of a stuntman who was able to claim some medical expenses, CF Prince v. Map. Can expenses be apportioned between deductible and non-deductible elements? Other deductions. Business entertainment, strict rules in SS 45-47. Fines and penalties Shepherd v. McKnight, McLaren Racing. Travel expenses, no statutory framework as for employees, falls under the general, wholly and exclusively, test. Newsom v. Robertson 1952-33, T, C, 452, CA, per Roma LJ. It seems to me, accordingly, that it is almost impossible to suggest that when the taxpayer, a barrister, travelled to Whipsnade in the evenings, or at weekends, he did so for the purpose of enabling him to carry on and earn profits in his profession, let alone that he did so exclusively for that purpose. That purpose, as I have said, could be fully achieved by his remaining the whole of the time in London. He went to Whipsnade, not because it was a place where he worked, but because it was the place where he lived and in which he and his family had their home.